We are live.
Hi, welcome to Musicians Hangout with your host, Crash Spitfire from Dissonant Chaos and Fatal Butterfly, and Maxine Maxwell from the Maxwells.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. It's great to be back. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Musicians Hangout. Wow, we're already at week 48. And we celebrated our anniversary last week. Woohoo! A full year.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. So we have a fun-filled night for you all, and I'm going to go over our mission.
Crazy.
And we will then introduce our guest for tonight. Musicians Hangout mission statement is to be part of a revolution, to create friendships with other artists, and build a community network to save music. And that's what we continue to do. So, welcome to our community.
That is totally yes.
Thank you all for following us.
Welcome.
This is actually a former professor of mine, Michael J.C. Taylor, that I will refer to as Dr. T, because he was my teacher in college, y'all. What? All right. Michael, tell us a little bit about your band.
He has a doctorate.
Fashionably Late is an acoustic group. We perform what's called roots music, British and American roots music, some of it traditional, many of it covers, but we're now starting to integrate a lot of our own original songs, and all five of us write, so that's a lot of fun.
Ooh,
and we play gigs around the Kansas City metropolitan area.
Awesome. Wow. How did you guys get your name Fashionably Late?
Fashionably Late is a title of an album by a wonderful artist who has been a Facebook friend of mine now for about 5 years. Her name is Linda Thompson. Oh. You might know her from Richard and Linda Thompson.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I love the record, and I like the idea of fashionably late, because people pay attention to you when you are fashionably late. And also to the fact that we're all older musicians. I mean, the youngest member of our band is like in his early 50s. So, and the oldest member is in her mid 70s. So,
oh wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's kind of neat to be the middle
that's awesome.
out of the entire band. I mean, and I'm pushing 60 really hard. So
you have both. You have perspective on both ends, I think.
Yes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun playing with these people. We got together. I hadn't played in a band in a long time, and I decided I wanted to explore some acoustic music. So what I did was I got on a few of the Facebook groups and put out an ad saying, "Hey, I want to play some acoustic music." And then I met Mark Millam, and he and I started working together. And when we had built up a rapport and a musical chemistry, we decided, okay, now it's time to expand the group. And we put another ad, and we got Tom Tipton, our bass player, who has got the wildest sense of humor in the world. He keeps us in stitches.
That's awesome.
And also, too, Mark said, I have a friend of mine who's a vocalist. She writes, but she plays an odd instrument that I don't know would fit in. And I was like, what's that? Hammer dulcimer. And I was like, well, bring her in. Let's see what happens. And we found that my 12-string acoustic and her hammer dulcimer just blended so well. So he's, Kim, stay, please.
It works.
And it worked. Yeah. And what was funny is that we built up as a quartet. And
what in the hell is a hammer dulcimer?
You might see if you look in the videos, you'll see this stand, and you'll see this I guess like 30 strings, and you play it with little hammers. And a hammer dulcimer, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we worked up as a quartet.
Okay.
We worked ourselves up as a quartet, and then we played a gig, our first gig at the Piano Room in July of last year.
Oh, that sounds cool.
We went over really well. And the act after us was Martha Hale. and she played violin and flute. She plays guitar as well. Is a great vocalist. And she voiced to our bass player, because those two have been friends for forever. Hey, you guys are really good. I'd like to play with you. And we were looking for a fiddle player anyway.
Heck yeah.
So she came in, and we just gelled, and we just took off from there.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was,
I love it when you just like gel with people and you're just like, yep.
Uh-huh. Not only was the musical chemistry right, but, we just really enjoy each other's company. We make each other laugh. We end up having conversations that last forever because we just enjoy talking to each other, as well as making great music together.
Yeah.
It's the best of all possible worlds.
Yeah, when you have good band chemistry, socializing and playing music and writing together, you can't get anything better than that. That's fabulous.
I've been jamming with these guys on the side, and then it's like some really super heavy stuff that I'm just loving. It's pushing me outside my comfort zone drumming, pushing me to go faster, harder, stronger. And it's really brought me out of my shell. And every time I play with these guys, it is just better and better and better and better. So I'm excited. So I know what you mean by like gelling with people, because we just hang out too.
Yeah.
But when it's time to work, like we just make it happen. It's crazy. Like we all know where to change, and it's amazing.
We like to put songs apart and literally play with each nuance. And that's a lot of fun. We did that with several of our songs. The Flower Lady and Dance Band on the Titanic were really excellent examples of that, where we literally took it apart piece by piece. And, okay, how do we make the 12-string and the 6-string work together? How do we incorporate the dulcimer? We want the bass to be doing something different and melodic that's almost like a counter melody. And I mean, we really took that song apart. And also, too, who was going to sing what verse? Because we also have 5 vocalists in the band.
Whoa. That's lucky.
So it's a lot of fun.
Who wants to sing? I don't want to sing. Everybody wants to sing in your band. That's great.
Yeah. Well, Tom is the exception. That he only sings songs that he knows. And most of those are ones he wrote himself. So... But he joins in on choruses on songs like we do the bands, The Weight. He joins in. He joins in on Dance Band on the Titanic. And he's got this nice low resonant voice, so he's at the bottom end of the harmonies, and it's great. But yeah, it's fun.
That sounds so fun. And I wanted to mention I had the honor of playing music with you while we were in college. You came over to our place that we had in North Dakota, and we played some music with you and your son, and it was so fun. I still reminisce those good times.
That was fun. You got to see me with an electric guitar, which not many people see me with these days.
Well, that's because I'm rock and roll, right?
Yeah. I played a lot of rock and roll in my time. I'm just really enjoying playing 12-string acoustic these days.
Well, and I want to get into, the instruments that you play, and also how you started your journey as a musician. Tell us a little bit about that.
How did I start my journey as a musician? It actually, I've loved the Beatles all my life. I actually saw the band 4 times live. Now, understand, I was 3, 4, and 5 at the time when I saw them. But it was when I saw the Beatles video for Strawberry Fields Forever on American Bandstand in 1967 that really made me love music. But it was the Byrds' Turn, Turn, Turn that made me want to play music. And when watching the Byrds, I found, I was like, wow, the lead guitarist plays 12-string. And I was with my great-grandmother in Hollywood. We walked by Wallach's Music City, and there was this gorgeous Guild 12-string hanging up there. And I just was like, that's the guitar I want to play. So I spent 3 months mowing a lot of lawns, and $800 in 1970 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I saved it up, went in, bought that guitar cash, and then spent the next year and a half learning how to play it. And of course, rather than learning how to play on a 6-string, which is the easy way to do it,
right,
I learned how to play on a 12-string. I've been a 12-string player all my life. So from there on out,
I love the 12-string. It brings a whole new level of sound, I believe. Like, it just...
Well, the thing is that people can play 12-string, but few people approach the 12-string in the way that it should be approached. They play a 12-string like a 6-string with 6 extra strings. And that's not how you play a 12. The best way to play a 12 is to play with open chords, to play with augmented chords, diminished chords, so you bring out the harmonies in it. Because you don't just have 6 strings, you have actually 12. When you approach it with strings that go higher than the high E, why not take advantage of it? And it brings a much fuller sound.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And that's how I play it. I don't play it like a 6-string. If I want to play a 6-string guitar, I'll play a 6-string guitar. 12-string, you bring out the aural beauty of the instrument. And that's how you approach it. That's why it's different. So I formed my first band when I was 16 with some friends from high school. And that's when we were introduced to playing in Hollywood in the 70s. You know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Saw it all.
I bet.
We played a gig at the Starwood in August of 1978. And we were out of a 4-band show. We were the first band. The headline group was a group that was called the Knack. They were signed to Capitol Records that night.
I know Knack.
And by the spring of the next year, they had a monster #1 hit called My Sharona.
Oh my gosh! Oh, yeah, that is a monster hit.
Yeah. We played Gazzarri's, and one night Van Morrison came up on stage with us, and we played 6 songs with Van Morrison. We even got him to play Brown Eyed Girl, which is something he doesn't do.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes. He had an album out then called Wavelength, and we played 3 songs from that. We played Caravan with him, and we played Wild Night, which was fantastic. We played Moon Dance. And for the last song, Jim Ziegler, who was my lead guitarist, just started playing the lead lick from Brown Eyed Girl. You know, the did.
I know.
Oh, I know, Brad. I know, Brad.
Turned over to me anyway.
Brown Girl.
And then just when it was time for him to come in on the vocal, he just went up to the mic and did it. And he hadn't done Brown Eyed Girl live in like 6 years. But we did it, and it went down like gangbusters. It was fun.
Heck yeah, that's sweet. Dang.
Yeah, I'm a big Van Morrison fan. So to be able to play on stage with him was just amazing.
Yeah, that's trippy. Oh my gosh, to get to play with one of your heroes.
Yes.
I don't know what I do. I think I might freeze.
Actually, Maxine, you find it's the opposite. You really want to impress the person that you've admired. So you go the extra mile. Somehow the adrenaline just helps. That's what I found.
Wow.
And it was a wonderful night.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you think you have an advantage over, other string instruments players starting out with a 12-string?
It made me approach songwriting in a whole different way.
Okay.
Because normally when you start off on 6 strings, you start off with normally blues progressions. The 3-chord blues progressions, and then you build songs from those.
Mm-hmm.
When you play with a 12-string, particularly when you come out of the folk tradition, you're not limited to those 3 chords or 4 chords that you hear in the rock blues progressions. you can go all over the place. And plus the fact you're searching for very melodic pieces that you can play by yourself and sing by yourself. And that changes the whole dynamic. That's what I loved about 12 string, is it actually freed me from convention.
So Corey from our chat room says he's very jelly. So he's jealous of you for getting to play with Van Morrison.
I was just in the right place at the right time, and he was in the audience that night.
Yeah,
That's
you were
awesome.
in the right place. You've been in a lot of right places and some wrong places. I remember some stories, you shared. You didn't only do you did sound engineering, right?
Yes, I did. I was a second engineer at SunWest Recording at Sunset and Western in Hollywood for like 5 years.
Wow. So you met big stars that way.
Yeah, you work with a lot of great people, and when you start out as the gopher, second engineer it includes being the gopher. I mean, whenever it's time to go change a mic or mic something, you're the one that runs out into the studio and tries to stay out of everybody's way by putting up a new mic and putting in a new position or changing things. Yeah.
Right.
And I was able to witness a lot of incredible sessions. In fact, one session that I got to see was a guitar overdub by Tom Petty.
Ooh.
That was making him go nuts. He couldn't quite get it. He got so angry, he punched the wall and shattered his hand.
Tom Petty?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was there when that happened. And I mean, blood everywhere. And he wove a tapestry of obscenity that is probably still hanging over the Pacific Ocean somewhere.
I'm sure of that.
I'm in shock. He just seems so cool, like a cucumber, man. I would have never imagined Tom Petty losing his shit like that.
Well, he did.
If you're like playing it over and over and over and over, it would get very frustrating if you just can't hit it. Like, I get it.
I like 15 takes, and he kept screwing up on one set of changes. And I mean, he would play it perfectly until he'd get to this one set of changes, and then his hands would do something completely unauthorized by his brain. And every musician has done that.
Yep.
But he kept getting to that certain place, and at that point, he took, we are talking a $5,000 Rickenbacker 12, and threw it on the floor to watch it go to pieces, and then punched his hand into the wall. He was so frustrated. Yeah.
Whoa.
I've seen other musicians do similar things, but I mean, not to themselves. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So yeah, I've seen many drummer put their foot through their kick drum because they were able to get a certain, a certain passage right.
So, they must have sponsorship because I wouldn't do that to mine.
Right? I'm thinking, I'm like, dude, those are like $75 like per head. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
But I've also met some really great people by doing it that way.
I bet.
My favorite story of working at SunWest was, it was about I'd say it was in May of '81. It was about 6 months after John Lennon had been assassinated. And Mac Rabenak, who you might remember as Dr. John, was making a jazz record, a New Orleans jazz record. And he had in his backup band, Robbie Robertson from the band, Rick Danko from the band, Billy Preston was playing keyboards with him. His drummer was Ringo Starr.
Oh, I love Ringo.
And I got to work with Ringo Starr.
Ringo Starr is like very underestimated.
I hear you. He's underappreciated, and he is the human metrodome, and I love him. He's one of my idols.
Man, have you heard his rolls on some of his songs? Like, they're just, I'm just like, holy crap.
He's amazing. The
thing I love about him is that not only is he a great timekeeper, but he only fills when it's necessary. He plays for the song rather than playing for himself. I could never play with a Neil Peart or a Keith Moon.
I hear you. I'm the same
Because
way. That's my style. I get you. Yeah. I love
Ringo
it.
played to the song, and he only filled when it was necessary. And watching him do his job in those sessions was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, during a break in one of the sessions, he was noodling around on the piano, and I went over to him. I started talking to him, and just, hey, I've been a big admirer of yours for many, many years. He said, really? I said, yeah. I said, the only memory I have of my mother and my father together was the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, where my mother was like about 3 inches from the television set, screaming Ringo at the top of her lungs. And my father was sitting in the chair doing this. It's just the only memory I have of my parents together. And my mother took me again to 4 Beatle concerts just so she could get a glimpse of Ringo Starr.
Oh.
So we were talking and we were joking and laughing. And he asked about my mom, and I said, yeah, my mother self-destructed when I was 6 years old. She had an overdose, and she's completely paralyzed. She's mute. And I told her how bad. Well, anyway, we did the sessions, and at the end of the sessions, at the very end, he had a roadie pack up his drums. He pulled up in a really nice car, and he had just started dating Barbara Bach at that time. And I was out there, and I was saying goodbye to him. He said, get in the car. And I went, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And when he got in, he asked me, he said, where's this Huntington Park place? Huntington Park is a suburb of Los Angeles. It was where my grandparents lived, and they were the ones that were taking care of my mother. And I said, why do you want to go to Huntington Park? And he said, I want to meet your mom. So we went to Huntington Park. I brought Ringo Starr into my grandparents' house, introduced him. Ringo went sat down at my mother's bedside and talked to her for an hour.
Oh my God.
And he had such a smile on her face. And afterwards, he just said, his pleasantries and everything. And I thanked him, and it was just an amazing thing. The thing I loved about it was finding out that somebody I had admired for so many years was a decent human being.
Yeah.
I love it when your heroes aren't villains. You know what I mean? They actually turn out to be heroes. Because sometimes your heroes actually turn out to be villains. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, I thought this guy was so cool my whole life. And then I meet him and he's just a total dickhead. And it's just like, well, now I don't even want to listen to your music. Like, it's just a big, it's a letdown. It's one of the biggest letdowns, I feel like.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I've had that happen to me with unfortunately with a few people.
I have too.
With SunWest, and they were just jerks. And it's like, okay, fine. That's your thing. That's cool. But I don't have to be a part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll just do my job. And I did. There was some jazz players that I really had a problem with because they just thought that they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's like,
I get being confident, but when you're, I don't know, what's the grandiose about it? It's annoying.
When you're egotistical about it and just like.
I was in a band in which I had people that were like that. My band Bittersweet. They were great players, finest players at the time in Los Angeles. But the problem is that when we weren't playing music together, which we did really well, we really couldn't get along with each other. We had a lead guitarist that thought that every song required a 10-minute guitar solo, which made me crazy because it was all no. Play me a melody, okay? Something that somebody can latch on to and really enjoy the song. Play to the song. Oh, you're just the one that wrote it. Well, yeah, I wrote the song, so I would like to hear the melody of the song.
No kidding, right?
Not just let me, make funny noises at you for 10 minutes, but
Yeah, accentuate the melody of the song.
Yes. because that's what a musician plays too.
Yes.
It's you're not important. You're not as important to the song as the song is. You are the one that's bringing the song.
Everybody has their equal part in this song.
Yes.
Because without their equal parts, there would be no song. It'd be lacking.
Just noise.
So,
yeah. I mean,
it takes everybody's
mm-hmm.
passion and commitment to the song to make it happen.
Right. I mean, the thing is that if you've got a show off or somebody that thinks that they're greater than the band, that they're the ones that need to be the superstars, it's just it not only does it ruin the performance of the song, but it causes just the worst relationship within the band.
I was gonna say it ruins the unity of the band.
Yeah, it does.
Itself.
You just hit the walls. Yeah, it's not fun anymore. Then there's no fun.
No.
Exactly.
And the beauty of working in a band, I mean, if you don't enjoy it, and you're not proud of what you've put out as a group, why do it?
Exactly.
I mean, one of the reasons why I stopped working in bands for over 3 decades, because I just got tired of it.
3 decades.
3 decades.
That's a long time.
Well, Bittersweet really put a bad taste in my mouth.
Fair enough.
Cool.
I mean, we broke up in an A&R agent's office. We were actually getting ready to sign a record deal when it happened.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That would leave a bitter taste in my mouth.
I mean, we were there we were 4 of us right there looking at the contracts. They wanted our song Ocean Child for a single. And this was in spring of 86. And we had worked for like 2 full years. I mean, just like a locomotive, dead on, just working very hard to get there. We'd done a lot of high profile gigs. We'd done short tours. We were ready to go. We had Camel Records ready to go, and they were being distributed by MCA, which is now Universal Music.
Oh,
and they wanted us to sign on the dotted line to put this record out, and they were going to take us to the next level. And this, again, I mean, we're talking MTVs or else they want to do videos with us. We're like, okay, let's do it. And 2 members go, well, I don't know if I want to do this for a living.
Wait, what?
what?
2 years. Well, and it had to do with the chemistry in the band.
Oh.
Do I really want to get hooked up for 3 years with you guys?
Oh, gotcha. That sucks.
I would say that suck without the S, with another word, and that would be more accurate.
Yeah.
It made me leave Los Angeles. It made me walk away from everything. I just walked away. I was done. I was done with LA. I was done with bands, and I just walked away. That was what did it for me.
That sucks.
Yeah. And did you go to school then? Like, what did you do next?
I left. I went to Kansas City with the idea that I was just going to say goodbye to my family. I was going to go to England and see what happens. Well, then I met Miss Bonnie on a bus. Carmen, excuse me, Maxine might remember Miss Bonnie.
I do remember Bonnie.
She was my wife, my wonderful wife of 29 years. She passed away not quite 4 years ago.
Oh.
But I met her, settled down, had a family, and it was when I was back in college, getting ready to, for a new career, that I picked up the guitar. I said, okay, am I going to keep this guitar or am I going to sell it? Am I going to just completely get out of it? And well, when I started playing it again, I hadn't played it in like 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
And the love of it came back. I love playing the instrument. So, I started making music again.
She totally supported that too. She helped foster that. She encouraged you to play, if I remember right. Yeah.
Yes, she did. That was one of
See,
the.
and that was going to be my next question, was because my boyfriend is a guitar player, and he was our bassist for a while, but he decided to go with another band, which is fine. And I really always encourage him to practice, play, because I want him, I know that he loves playing.
Yeah.
And I see that he really enjoys it. That's why he wants to continue to play. So why wouldn't I encourage that? I'm a musician. He encourages me to play. So yeah, I'm glad that your wife encouraged you to play, because some don't.
Yeah, some don't. Yeah.
I
some don't.
been
They
there,
want to
done that.
move it all up. Don't be in bands, and like I'm in the band.
Yeah, they get too jealous of the industry. So
yeah. My the bass player in Hijira, Jim Turner, we did a reunion album about 5 years ago. My high school band, and we got back together again and made a CD, and it was great. But he likes to tell a story of this girl that he'd been going with since junior high school. And she was like, and as we were starting to make it, she was like, well, Jim, you're going to have to make a decision. It's either me or the band. And he just said, well, it's been nice to know you.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Well, don't ask that. Bad choices.
I've had a love affair longer with my instrument than with you. So
yes, exactly. Well, that's part of your passion. That's part of you.
That's what makes you you. Yes.
Part of you.
Oh, it's an extension of you. Your music is an extension of you.
Exactly.
When I write songs, one of the things that my bandmates in Fashionably Late have found out that I don't write fluff songs. I write very serious songs. And
I like that.
Because it's an expression of what's on my mind. It's one of the things that I feel. I don't write love songs. I don't normally. I've written a couple.
Yeah.
But most of the time I write about things that concern me.
Yeah, you write about raw subjects of life. I mean, it could, you are a historian, so that could be why you're drawn to that. But I get you. I'm in a really, healthy marriage myself, but we write about the raw and rugged and, ugly parts of death, of life, of marriage and being together in a partnership. We like to really dig deep with what we are trying to get across to our fan base and ourselves, really.
Yeah.
It's like spewing emotion,
Well, yes. And the thing is that I don't actually go searching for songs. I did that when I was in LA and I was trying to make it as a professional musician in a band to get a recording contract. I was always searching for the next lick. I was always searching for the next, great phrase. And when I walked away from it, I walked away from that aspect of writing. I want to write something that means something to me. And I have written some songs along those lines I was really proud of. Like there was a song I wrote called Lusitania, a Requiem, which I wrote with Jim Ziegler, which was about the sinking of the Lusitania. It's historically accurate. And I think it's one of the best songs I've ever written.
Cool.
But the problem is that when we went into, a record company with a demo of that song, they were just like going, nobody's going to get this song. And I was like, well, we tell the story. You think people weren't going to get well, take, for instance, Gordon Lightfoot's The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's a song about a shipwreck during a storm on the Great Lakes.
Right.
Nobody thought that would be a hit. It was a #1 hit record.
Yeah, you never know what's going to be a hit. Yeah, and you never know what story is going to intrigue someone enough to research that story.
Right. Well, the story of the Lusitania was that this ship was set up to be sunk by the British government as a way of luring the United States into World War I. And the point that was being made by the song is that if the government in 1915, if the British government could do this in 1915, they could sure as hell do it now.
Right.
Realpolitik will dictate these things. And I wanted to convey that in a song. Now, of course, that means the intellectual level has to, but some of the greatest songs out there have got a very strong intellectual current with them.
Exactly.
If you've ever listened to Boston's Peace of Mind.
Yes. I love Boston. Yeah.
Well, that particular song, if you listen to it's an amazing song. Or the Logical Song by Supertramp. That's a very intellectual song. It's talking, it's a philosophical song about what is the nature of humanity. Is it to feel good, or is it to deal with the inanities of life? Which one am I? Do I fit in, or am I different? And how am I different? Very many levels in that song that are just amazing, but it demands something intellectually out of you. That's
it does.
the kind of songs that I wanted to write. And I was inspired by some really
Our friend says, Brandon, he says Time by Chicago.
Yes. Ooh, that's a good song.
Yeah. But there's a lot of great ones. There was 3 writers that really inspired me to write, and two of them.
Like our friend Kelly Ray says that he says no matter what the subject or structure of any songs, each and every one of them has a part of him, and that he has to give, and he leaves behind in those songs. And I absolutely get that. Like every single song that I play drums to, like I put my heart and soul into that. Like,
but but the thing is, you have a connection with every song you play. It teaches you on some subliminal level.
Yes,
and you really cannot play music that means anything without having that kind of a connection to it.
You are correct on that. Yeah. No.
That's why that's why Fashionably Late doesn't do a lot of songs that are, pop hits. They're just really great songs,
Catchy.
And in some cases, yes, but like in the case of The Flower Lady, which was written by Phil Oakes, it's about the end of it's about the end of an era, that era being the flower power era. That's what the song is about, the death of the flower power era.
Oh.
And it's a gorgeous song, but there's just a lot of substance to it. And I saw that in my lifetime. I was a small child at the time, but I saw all of that Summer of Love, and it was amazing. So, it brings, and my mother was a flower child.
I was going to say, I'm kind of jealous that you actually got to see the Summer of Love, because I know exactly, I'm a 70s baby.
Yeah.
So, like, I know what you're talking about. You're just like, a few years older than me, but I know what you're talking about. The Summer of Love. It's crazy.
Well, to give you an example of
you don't
that,
hear that term very often.
Well, the Buffalo Springfield song, For What It's Worth. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Yeah. Everybody look what's going down. I witnessed the event that inspired that song.
What?
Yeah, the Sunset Strip riots. In fact, if you might remember, Maxine, I talked about it in class. I was 5 years old, and my mother was involved in the Sunset Strip riots.
That's right. I remember this now.
What happened was that there was too many underage kids on the Sunset Strip after curfew. So the police decided to crack down on it. Well, the kids decided, sorry, but we're going to go see our favorite bands, and we're going to stay on the Sunset Strip, and they defied police. The only problem was they did things like, overturn buses. My mother was involved in overturning a city bus, and I watched it from the corner of Sunset and La Cienega. I watched it happen. And then what happened was that Stephen Stills was watching all this happening.
Yeah.
And that's what inspired him to write the song For What It's Worth, which was later recorded by the Buffalo Springfield and became a monster hit and an anthem of the 60s. I saw it happen.
Dang.
That's awesome. Like to
That's
be part of
crazy.
history like that is, and to be a history, teacher, being a part of that history is even cooler, I think.
Well, I almost think that your life inspired you to turn to history and to go with that path in education because you were intrigued by it, moved by it, and you lived it.
Yeah. In my life, I've met some pretty amazing people on that end too. Just before my 7th birthday, I met Robert Kennedy.
Ooh.
My grandfather worked in Los Angeles politics, and he was working for the Kennedy campaign in '68. And one of their last strategy sessions took place the Friday before the California primary in '68, and it took place at my house.
What?
And my grandfather was making lunch, and they were going to sit down in a strategy session. And I met Bobby Kennedy, and we talked for about 10 minutes. And when my grandfather brought in the tacos that he had made for lunch, it's like, it's time to sit down now. And Senator Kennedy was like, wait, I'm talking to your grandson. And the thing I remembered about Bobby was that he wasn't very tall. He was about 5'6". And that I'm a 6-year-old kid, and he's not talking at me. He's not talking through me. He's talking to me.
Oh.
And that was the thing that was amazing. And the following day, I sat. There was a cream covered limo that we rode in to downtown LA, and my grandfather drove it. And Bobby was sitting in the back, and he was shaking hands with people as we were going to the Biltmore for one of his last speeches of the campaign. Well, if you look at the footage and you look to my grandfather's right, you'll see this little head in the front seat. That's me.
Oh. Wow.
My grandfather was in the pantry of the Ambassador Hotel when Bobby was shot.
Oh, no.
Yep, he saw it all go down. He was questioned by the LA County Police and the FBI. I remember him coming home with Bobby's blood all over his clothes.
Oh.
And he just sat in the chair and he cried. And they weren't tears of joy or tears of sorrow. They were tears of rage.
Yeah.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
Animals. Americans are animals. And it was not long after that they announced that Bobby had died. So, I mean, and he was there and he watched it. And that's when he decided politics wasn't for him anymore.
I bet. It's interesting you said, Americans are animals, because that's sort of what I've been watching happen right now during the COVID-19 outbreak is, how there is humanity, but also there's phases in which it just seems everybody's angry and out to almost get each other. And then we're back to the peacefulness again. And now it's again rage. Have you been noticing that where you're at?
I haven't seen America so divided since the 1850s. And the 1850s was the era which I centered on when I did my doctoral dissertation, the political dysfunction of the 1850s. And we all know what happens at the end of the 1850s, right? The American Civil War.
Right.
You get to watch literally the wheels come off of the American Union during the 1850s.
Yeah.
And when you see some of the things that were going on then, it's not out of the realm of possibility now. There was a point where, and again, Maxine might remember this, at one point during Senate debates over slavery, South Carolina Congressman Preston Brooks walked onto the Senate floor, took out his cane, and caned Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner on the floor of the Senate, beat him senseless.
Wow.
Because he insulted South Carolina and South Carolina's penchant for slavery. And the thing is that's not out of the realm of possibility in our time.
Right? It's like we're going backward instead of forward.
Absolutely. We have not learned from our history, so
We haven't. It's so frustrating. We haven't learned anything. It's scary what people don't know what happened in the past that is repeating.
Mm-hmm.
It's really.
We're getting ready for an economic crash in this country for this very
I
same.
know. I'm getting.
1929.
Yeah.
I mean, I could spend 2 hours telling you how it's going to happen, but the main thing, and it's something that again I used to teach in my classes. I don't know. I don't know. You might remember the name Roger Babson.
Sounds familiar. Yes.
Roger Babson was an economist in December of 1926 that said that there was a crash coming.
Yes.
And it was going to be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
That the stock market was going to lose between 85 and 90% of its perceived value. And the way he explained it was like this. The way that the stock market was designed, it was designed to measure the flow of currency in an economy. The more currency that flows within an economy, the healthier it is. Mm-hmm. So, as he explained it, when the flow of currency rises, so does the stock market. So again, the flow of currency goes up, the stock market goes up. But if the flow of currency goes down, then the stock market is to go down. Okay? That's the way they were supposed to measure each other. The problem that he noticed in 1926 was that the stock market rates were going up and up and up and up, but the flow of currency was going down and down and down and down until they just were at opposite ends. And he said at some point they have to ride each other. And when they do, between 85 and 90% of the world's wealth would evaporate. Well, on the 29th of October, 1929, guess what happened? 87.5% of America's wealth evaporated in 8 hours. That's what's going to happen now.
Oh,
we're seeing it. But anyway, we didn't come here to talk about history.
That's true.
Sorry about that. I was looking at Crash, and she was like, "Oh God, he's off on a tangent."
No. I was talking to my boyfriend.
Well, and there's somebody in the chat room that's trying to come into the show, and I think she's trying to deal with that too. And,
yes, I was actually going to text you about that.
I saw that, and I looked them up because I thought maybe they were a bandmate of Dr. T's, but I don't think they are. So I'm like, nope, sorry. Yeah. If you want to be on the show, you have to contact us directly through Musicians Hangout on our Facebook page, or you can email us at musicianshangout19@gmail.com, and we can schedule you. We are scheduled out until August. So if you are interested in being on the show, please connect with us.
Yeah. Anyway. But Sarah Carter, she says that somebody has to post a link because they can't hear.
Oh.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either. Go to the YouTube. Go to our Musicians Hangout on YouTube. You should be able to hear it.
Yes.
Without further ado, I wanted to introduce one of the videos that Dr. T sent to us. So, are we ready to show one of those, maybe?
Yeah. Yes. So, which one would you like me to show, Dr. T?
Oh, the dance band on the Titanic, if you can get it. It's a Harry Chapin song, and
that's the name of it. Dance Band on the Titanic.
Dance Band on the Titanic, and it was done in early January. It was done actually in the front room of my home by Bill Pryor. He was the one that shot it. He's a Kansas City filmmaker. He's a dear friend of mine. Caught the band in a really great period doing this song. And it's written by the late, great Harry Chapin. So, and it's got an earworm for a chorus. So just letting you know.
Oh, I love those. Yes. So. All right. We're going to take you into the green room, and we're going to pull up the video on the phone.
I can't find it, though. That's the thing. So I don't find that one on YouTube.
When she finds it.
Fashionably late. Yes. Dance band on the Titanic.
Late.
Yeah.
Well, she continues to look for the video.
And it's called Danced Man on the Titanic.
Dance. DANCE. Dance band on the Titanic.
A band.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Band on the Titanic. There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
You got it.
Yes. So hold on. Let me get it queued up real quick.
Awesome. Big shout out to
the technology like this amazes me. So,
well, we're
all right. So
hoping
I'm going to put you guys in the green room. So just hold tight.
okay.
On the Titanic, sing nearer my God to thee. The icebergs on the starboard bow, won't you dance with me?
What about now? Okay. How about that? Okay.
Hey,
Well, we did end up having some technical difficulties. Sorry.
I was wondering what was going on, actually.
Yeah, something with a connection, I'm sure. YouTube, because we're broadcast on YouTube, I think it's harder. There's a delay with the YouTube being broadcast on StreamYard, maybe?
Now, it's normally the song we open with is Dance Band on the Titanic, and it's a lot of fun.
That sounds really fun. Hey, Crash, I think that there's another... Oh,
Hold on. So...
Yeah, she's hard at work. Or hardly
Yes.
working, whichever one you want to go with.
She is always working behind the scene, always.
Okay, I got to figure it out. I figured it out.
Thank you, girl. Good job.
Yeah.
So we can play another video later. I figured it out.
Good.
Oh,
Good.
yeah, we can do that a little later, sure. So I ask bands, they don't always like this question because it puts us in a box. But what do you consider the genre of your music?
Yeah.
The genre, I would say roots music. That's an American roots music song.
Okay.
In other words, it's not quite folk, it's not quite rock, it's not quite country. It's an acoustic song, but it has an upbeatness to it, but it also tells a story. It is a story song. So the best way I would say this is what we call ourselves, a roots band, because it is acoustic music.
Yeah. I like the flute playing.
Gotcha.
That sounded really cool. What I could hear, the flute was beautiful.
Oh, Martha. Martha is an amazing musician. She's a great vocalist too. Yeah. In fact, there's a video of her where she does a Bob Dylan song called "Things Have Changed," and we in the band like to call her Granny Badass on that particular song.
Heck yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard the song. It actually won an Academy Award in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
The song itself is just a great one, and it really shows off what Martha can do as a vocalist. But she prefers to play with play the flute and play the violin, which she does expertly. And she's been on the Kansas City music scene for many, many years, and we are just pleased as punch to have her.
That's
By
awesome.
the way, she is also she also holds a PhD in mathematics.
Ooh.
Wow.
Dang. Whole other level.
She's a math teacher, so she and I have that in common. We're both academics, you see.
I love that. Man, I have mad respect for that because if you have a math background, it can make it a lot easier to write music. So I've heard.
Yeah.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Although I'm still trying to get the hang of algebra. To me, algebra.
Yeah, right.
Numbers and letters and the same. That's just somebody with too much time on their hands.
Honestly, the weird thing is now that I'm older in my, mid 40s, I understand math a lot better than I did
a lot better when
I was younger.
Yeah. After development, it definitely is a lot easier. For math anyway.
Yeah.
Language is definitely easier to learn when you were younger, but mathematics I grasped better when I was an adult too.
I've grown to appreciate it, and Martha's been really good at helping me with that appreciation.
Cool.
I was also married to a woman for 29 years that had the greatest natural mathematical mind I've ever known.
That's
Bonnie
awesome.
could solve advanced calculus problems in her head.
Wow.
And I would just stare at her like, she's like, this is nothing. And Sudoku was so easy for her. She was just like, she started out with it, and she would, the advanced Sudokus, or they would have like 7 different puzzles linked together. She could do those in under 3 minutes.
Oh, crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, and so over the years, I've gained a certain appreciation for it, even though parts of it I really don't understand. But yeah, writing music, mathematics is definitely a major part of doing it, because you have to know how many notes, what kind of notes to fit in certain bars, and you have to be able to replicate that on the instrument. So,
And if you're a drummer, like anytime there's a fill, you have to subtract X amount of notes to fill in X amount of notes. So there's a bunch of that that goes into drumming.
Yeah. And some of the best drummers I've ever heard in my life, they approach that with such an interesting way. They focus on certain instruments to play with. Most drummers I play with like to play with bass players. But if you listen to The Who, Keith Moon used to play to the vocals.
Yeah, that's
incredible fills because he was playing with the vocals, but when the vocals dropped out, he was playing straight beat.
Yeah.
Which I've never heard any drummer play like that. But yeah, The Who?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think. I will have to pay more attention to that. That's interesting.
Listen to Won't Get Fooled Again, and listen to what Keith's doing during the vocals and what he's doing when the vocals aren't there.
Okay.
It is amazing.
That too.
Yeah.
As a drummer and
wild.
vocalist, I have to, feel for where I'm not singing, and I do have to go along with my singing. Otherwise, it messes me up. So I drum along with my vocals, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Musicians that can do two different things at one time really impress me. Paul McCartney blows me away in that sense. He'll be singing high melody and be playing a bass line, which is, a counter melody simultaneously. It's like, boy, you're really getting both sides of your brain going, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's funny how I can drum and sing, but I can't play bass and sing. It's the weirdest thing.
Huh. Mm-hmm. I can't do the strings, so kudos to that.
I can play bass and sing so long as the bass line is not too complicated.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if you listen to the Beatles, I Saw Her Standing There, the studio recording, Paul's singing the lead vocal on that, and he's singing at like almost the very top of his range. But that rolling bass line that he's doing, I mean, he's going at it, and he isn't stopping. It's not just boom, 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 boom. He's doing arpeggios on bass while he's singing.
Dang!
And then,
wow, I can't do that. Like I can do a boom tap while singing a different melody.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, and like in between, like.
And there are bands out there that take that to a whole new level. I don't know if you've ever heard Gentle Giant.
Who was that?
Gentle Giant's been known to do all kinds of arrangements like that, to where they'll be singing one melody, and the bass will be in a different time, the drummer will be in a different time, the keyboard player will be in a different time in a different key, and somehow they manage to bring it all together.
Wow. And it's like jazz fusion, because that stuff just really confuses me.
Yeah, right.
Jazz fusion, I tried to play it, and I just don't. I like to listen to it, but I don't get it as a player. It's just one of I just don't get it. Now, my bass player Tom Tipton or Martha, she nails it. They nail it. I listen to it, and I'm just in awe of it, because that's not where my background is.
So all you have to do is everybody plays a different song at the same time as loud as you can and fight for the lead.
Yeah, well, no, actually, it's bringing the idea of arrangement, as you hear in some of the more complicated classical pieces, into the realm of rock and roll, to where each separate instrument is doing something that enhances the melody in some way and builds on the melody. And rather than having one melody in which everybody's playing, it's a multi-dimensional melody
That's
where
for sure.
everybody's playing a different piece of it simultaneously. That's one of the reasons why I love going to see the Kansas City Symphony when I ever get a chance.
Oh my gosh, I bet
Because
that.
Okay, a symphony
different
is
musicians.
different. They are playing the same song. They're just building on the same song. Jazz fusion, it just sounds like everyone's playing a
jazz
different
fusion,
song, and they
you get
all want the
two,
lead,
you get
and so they're just
time.
fighting for the lead. And I know that some people are like, no, it's the notes that they don't play. And it's the rhythm that they don't play these notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that to a point.
That's
To me-
confusing. I could do it.
What you don't play to me is irrelevant.
It's just
what you do
confusing
play.
sometimes.
It's what
Yeah,
you
it's
do
what you
play. It's,
Yeah.
Like, I
Because
love
that's
jazz,
what
but jazz
I'm
fusion
heard.
is just confusing, and I'm not a big fan.
Now, jazz fusion, it depends on the mood for me. I've seen some great jazz players play live. I mean, Keith
That's
Jarrett had a
great.
trio that I've seen. He was fantastic. I've seen Chick Corea and Return to Forever during their heyday when they had Stanley Clark on bass, and it was like, wow, this is great stuff. But you see, the thing is that they intertwined with each other in a way in which classical musicians do. Each classical section is doing something different, but when you put it all together, it's like a great harmony stack of different things going on. Are you familiar? We'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the obbligato in Paul McCartney and Wings' Silly Love Songs? The vocal obbligato, where you start off with "I love you," and then you hear, "How can I tell you about my loved one?" And then the next piece, she gave it all to me. Now can't you see? You put those three, and they're going on simultaneously, but you put the three of them together, they're hitting different harmony pieces at the same time that are just extraordinary. That little vocal obbligato blows me away every time I hear it, because it is three different songs going on in with different emphasis, but when they meet, they emphasize particularly the word love, which is gorgeous.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. That is
So our friend Brandon Boss says fusion is spontaneous, like pickup basketball.
Thank you, Brandon. That's a good way to explain it.
I like that. That makes sense.
Dr. T, I was going to ask you, what was your favorite venue that you played?
My very favorite venue I ever played.
Yeah.
God, I played a lot of them too.
I know.
You played some pretty
the one I was
awesome
most
places.
comfortable with, I'd have to say Gazzari's on the Sunset Strip.
Oh.
And that was because, it seated 400 people. And the sound people there were fantastic. I mean, they really were into getting the right mix between the right instruments.
Right.
So you felt more confident at that place. That's the place I felt the most confident playing at, was because I knew that my instrument was going to blend well with the rest of the instruments with the band. And that gives you a certain amount of more confidence. That was the place, again, where Van Morrison jumped up on stage with us. It was at Gazzari's.
Oh, okay.
And we played there often in the late 70s and early 80s. And it was a fabulous place because you had a great sound crew. And you had a great lighting crew, and they were there for the band. It wasn't like when you go to some small club somewhere, you set up and it's up to you to get the sound right. And I would in the audience say, well, you need to bring the guitar up, or you need the kick drum up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you have to be not only conscious of the performance you're giving, but also of the sound that's going out into the audience. And that can make you crazy after a while.
Yeah, it can.
At Gazzari's, I never had to worry about that. And I think that's what made it probably the most comfortable place I ever played.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
When you've got good sound and you know it's good and you know that they're hearing what you want them to hear and you can also hear too. Because when you're on stage, it's hard to be able to feel your bandmates if you can't hear them.
Well, the thing is that what amazes me, my fiance Mary and I, just a couple of nights ago, we watched the concert for Bangladesh, which I don't know if you've ever seen. It's a fabulous concert. We're watching them out there, and I'm watching for things that most people don't watch for, like when they're tuning their guitars. They don't have electronic tuners. They don't have electronic tuner, so they're tuning by ear.
By ear,
Right.
wow.
Yeah, they're making sure their instruments in tune. Meanwhile, there's all these other guitars, and you've got a crowd of like 40,000 out there in Madison Square Garden that are going at it, and you're trying to tune your instrument. And then on top of that, there's the sound reinforcement, and they had the very basic, back speakers. It's amazing that what the sound that they got and the performances they got. But go back just another 7 years before that. When the Beatles played Shea Stadium, there was no sound reinforcement. None. They could not hear what they were playing.
Oh my gosh.
They could not hear. Well, you got 55,000 fans screaming at the top of their lungs.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to hear.
And you're standing in front of your amps. And said in many interviews, he told me personally, he said the only way that I could keep time during the Shea Stadium concert was to watch how Paul McCartney wiggled his ass.
That's funny.
Because there was no sound in here.
Yeah.
You said I couldn't do any of the fills in the records because it would go off into nowhere because they weren't. He had 2 mics. At Shea Stadium, and I mean, you're talking a baseball stadium. He had 2 mics to mic his drums with.
Oh my god!
And neither of them were on the kick drum. There was one in front.
They were like
just 2 drop mics just hanging out.
Yeah. To mic drums for 55,000 people in the base in a stadium.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
wild.
that's crazy. That's wild, man.
But yet you see some of the performances and they're just like, wow, these poor guys are really kicking ass out there.
Yeah. Yeah. They knew where each other was, obviously. Like, you know the song so well that you can just keep them going even if you can't hear them. Well, we've had to do that before.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why the Beatles stopped touring. They were writing more complicated songs.
Oh, yeah.
How do you get the 3-part harmony in Nowhere Man right when you really can't hear what you're singing?
Right.
Yeah.
That's why they stopped. And yet, sound reinforcement is gone on. It makes when you can hear yourself, it makes you more confident as a musician when you're playing.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, because you can feel it. And you know that they're feeling it. And they're making that connection with you. When you don't have that, it's just by the seat of your pants.
And you don't enjoy the performance either.
No, it's stressful. You're like all over the place in your mind. You're like, oh gosh, are we on? Are they even following my beat? Like, can they hear me at all? And then can the fans hear? Could they hear the Beatles? If there's that many people in the stadium, are they even hearing the music?
Yeah.
One of the greatest fallacies I found in live performing, at least back when I first started in the 70s, was that you have this notion that, well, you've got these amplifiers. How can you not hear yourself? Well, I can probably hear myself until the drums kick in. But then what's the drummer going to follow? Well, they're going to follow the bass. But what's the bass player going to follow? They follow the rhythm guitar. Well, hello, I'm rhythm guitar. If I can't hear me, how's the bass player going to hear me? And if the bass player can't hear me, how are they going to be on time? So how are they follow? It just makes it crazy,
Christy Lee Queen says that's kind of like distant teaching and learning.
It is. So yeah, as an educator, I can totally
I did that.
totally relate with that because I'm having to distance teach now, and that's
Figuring out how to
Can they
play
hear
songs
you?
without hearing each other is,
Mhm.
yeah, I could
Yeah.
totally get
Yeah.
that, Christy. It's like teaching and learning, distant teaching and learning.
Yeah,
Cheers on that.
it's challenging to say the least.
Well, as a musician as well as a former college professor, people always get more out of the human being in the room than they do from watching it from a television set.
Agreed.
It's the immediacy of it, you know?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, the element that I'm missing the most is being in person for the aha moments. There
It's
for the
the
kid,
intimacy with,
the kid that had a rough day and is practically in tears, and I show them something different to do with an art project, and they have that, I don't know, that instant joy, and they run with it, and their life is a little bit better in that moment, and I miss being that for them, and I hope that I can do that now, but it's not the same. It's really not.
Well, the thing is, that's because I'm sure, Maxine, is because you do not feed off of the students being there. Because when you see their faces, you see how they're connecting with you, it heightens what you're doing. It gives you more enthusiasm for what you're doing.
It does. It feeds me. It feeds my soul.
And that's how you in turn give it back to them. It's the same when you're on a stage playing music.
Yes.
If you're not into it, the audience is not going to be into it. One of the things that we've seen a lot of people streaming now because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's very hard to interact with an audience if you're in front of just a camera hoping that they're going to catch you. But you're not feeding off of them, and they're not really feeding off of you. They're appreciating what you do, but there's not that personal exchange that happens when you're.
I call it the intimacy between band and fan. There's an intimacy that goes on.
Yeah.
We are giving part of our soul, and they were receiving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing when that happens.
Meg says that you are his favorite teacher of all time because your classroom interaction, and you lectured like it was rocking a stage. That's awesome.
Yeah,
well, they'll tell you I never stayed in one spot. Like I didn't stand at a podium and I walked up and down the aisles, calling on people. I mean, it's just, and that's because I wanted that interaction with my students. I'm the same way on stage.
Yeah,
I don't let an audience sit there and hi, I know you're sitting out there. Hello, no, it's not the same.
It's exactly the type of educator that we needed in North Dakota for us punk rockers that are a little more alternative. You understood us and you could see us as people. Like a lot of people didn't see us as, human. I don't know. You remember our friend John, all pierced up, tattooed, like.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
I remember that guy.
We're all human, and we, took our education seriously, but people would see us.
We do want to be educated.
Yeah, people would see us, judge us. Dr. T never judged us.
That's awesome.
He had a conversation with us and, shared that piece of humanity with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why
that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. And that's why I want to do that. I was inspired by teachers throughout, my career, but there's very few. There's you, and then there's Miss Gentry from high school. And that's the type of personality that I adapted. And I really like Lily Stewart. You probably remember Lily Stewart from Dickinson State University.
Yes, I remember Lily Stewart very well.
Oh, that's another, professor that I really admired and I want to teach like too.
For me, it was Dr. Varney at Centralia Community College. She was my art teacher.
Oh.
she would always get on me about my art. Like it was lacking something. It was lacking something. It was lacking something.
Mhm.
And like I never felt that way. And I would do like just splashes. And she was like, well, now you've done too much. And I'm just like, Dr. Varney. But at the end of it, she was like, you know, you were one of my favorite students. You had so much potential, and you are going to reach your potential one
So
day.
she had an expectation for you, and you met it.
Yes, but I never understood that.
Yeah.
But
That's
after
what it's hard.
now today, like I said, like I still love Penny Varney.
Mhm.
She's one of my
That's awesome.
favorites.
Aw.
For me, it was Dr. Ed Beasley at Penn Valley Community College in Kansas City. And that's because of the way he did things. He wasn't one of those that was flamboyant. But what
Mm-hmm.
he did was he would sit on the edge of his desk and he would get all of his students and say, come here. And he would have us all sit like we were sitting around a campfire. And he would talk about history as if you were telling a story around a campfire.
Dude, that's cool. That's
I love
awesome.
that.
And you were mesmerized by this man. And that's what made me say, okay, I need to do this, but I need to do it in my own manner because the way he did it was very personable. It was a part of how he did things. And well, I was going to get into the classroom, and I was going to be that kind of personable teacher. I
Heck
did
yeah.
not want to be one of those that just did his job to get the paycheck. I was there for my students. There were two things I valued as a teacher, and that was my students and the truth. That's it.
I absolutely love that.
Hell yeah.
I absolutely love that. Like, cheers on that. That was beautiful.
on that. That is beautiful. And that's what my main focus is too. Is the students first, you know.
And as somebody who would be a student, like that's something I would definitely want to hear my teachers say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know? Like
I got into a lot of trouble.
I
for
know
that.
some teachers lose their passion and they are just there for the paycheck.
You did get in some trouble here and there. You did.
Some? Why so modest? I was in constant trouble. It was amazing. I used to get student complaints all the time.
My teacher's too awesome.
And the one that really got to me, I remember being called into the vice president of academic affairs office because one student complained, Dr. Braun, and it's like, okay, what's the complaint? And turned to the student, what's your complaint? And the complaint was, I kid you not, Dr. Taylor is so smart, he's scary.
Get the F out of here.
No, and I'm like going, well, what am I supposed to? Did you hire me to be stupid?
Right.
Today, we're going to talk about the American Revolution.
And I'm going to tell you all of the lies that your teacher told you before and just keep them rolling. Yeah, no.
So
No.
so you're telling me that your complaint was my professor is too smart.
Yeah. I was flabbergasted. Yes.
Coming from a student who is there to learn.
Yes.
Paying to learn. You know,
Paying money.
Yeah.
Lots of money.
Taking
To
out
learn.
loans.
We
Not
missed
just
that.
giving money, but borrowing money. that they have to
Borrowing
pay
money.
back.
Yes, that you're gonna have to pay like 4 times as much back
Yes.
in the long run. But you're too smart. My
Yeah.
professor's too smart. I don't want to go to his class. He's too smart for me.
but you know, it's worth every penny if you have a good teacher.
Yeah.
You know, I want to pay for the best education that I can get, not the worst.
I would pay extra for you, Dr. Dr. T. Like,
The thing is getting back to the whole point of the show.
Oh yeah.
If you expect the same thing from a band you go to see live, that's
Right.
what you want.
Right.
I pay to be entertained, and I want to be entertained.
Mm-hmm. And not just
Especially if I'm
being
paying like
entertained.
$100 to see you, I better be entertained. Like I better
Yeah,
have
that's
lights.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest problems that's come down the pike is that the entertainment. It's the dance routines, it's the lighting, it's play all the hits. It's not actually
I play
playing.
shows and none of my friends will come see me for $10 freaking dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm paying $100 to go see bands.
Yeah.
I feel like something's amiss here.
I've been to one too many shows where all they've done is went up and played the hits. And, everybody's, that was great because they played the song that I loved. Well, I'm one of those people that when I go to hear somebody play, I don't just want to be entertained. I want to be enlightened in some way.
Yes.
I want to have somebody make me think as well as to play a great song for me that enriches me.
A total life experience.
Which is why we choose the songs that we choose. We don't play just the songs that everybody expects. Like it would be easy for me to play the Byrds, Mr. Tambourine Man. God, I mean, I learned how to play by playing the Byrds records. Or
yeah,
playing
you can do it very well. Very well.
The Beatles. That's why we play songs by Nick Drake or Phil Oakes or Harry Chapin or Bob Dylan. And some of the more obscure Bob Dylan songs because those songs have absolutely something to say, not just to entertain you and sound great, but the words.
Yeah, Bob Dylan. Oh my gosh, a wizard with those words, man.
I love Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan, and he's super deep, very, very deep, man.
Well, there's another artist I think if you like Dylan, you should check out named Phil Oakes.
Phil Oakes?
Phil Oakes. Okay. Ochs.
Ochs?
That's how you spell his last name.
Okay.
Wrote great songs. He was a singer-songwriter from the 60s. His songs are timeless.
I wonder if I've heard his stuff.
There, but for fortune, oh my God. Show me a prison. Show me a prison. Show me a jail. Show me a prison man whose face it has gone pale, and I'll show you a man with so many reasons why. There, but for fortune, goes you or I.
Ooh.
Yeah. In my 60s class, I actually used to play a Phil Oakes song called I Ain't Marching Anymore.
Oh, yeah, that was the first hit that popped up on hit when I Google searched him.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I've heard that song. I really do. I'm going to listen to it later.
I flew the final mission in the Japanese sky. I let loose the mighty mushroom roar. And as I watched the cities burning, I knew that I was learning I ain't marching anymore. One of the greatest anti-war songs ever.
Oh, and you have such a great voice. I love hearing it.
You do have an amazing voice. Holy coly.
I've had about 45 years of practice.
Sure.
But we Fashionably Late does a wonderful version of a Phil Oakes song called The Flower Lady. And we're really proud of the arrangement. And the video should be there on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, do you want us to pull up Flower Lady?
If you would. That's a song, and it has not only myself singing lead, but also Kim and Mark.
Hold on, let me. Flower Lady.
Fingers crossed it works. And I'm going to give a shout out to my girl, Belinda. Hey, B, I see that you're in the chat room. I love you. Mwah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get it queued up and then I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Drum roll.
Okay.
The 2020 version from the All Souls Coffee House. I was done in late January. It was a great show.
I miss shows.
Okay, I'm putting us all in the.
I miss shows.
Anthony.
for companions, all the rest is me. Strangers in a foreign land, strike a match with the trembling hand. Learn too much to ever understand. And nobody's fighting flowers, flowering. This is voices forever. Once again. And nobody's fighting flowers, oh, you agonize, they cannot find the word. Alas, the sculptor, are you absurd? Made to paint with brushes black, but through the canvas runs a crack. Portrait of the pain never answers back. And nobody's flying flowers, flowering. Soldiers disappear, students tell them not to fight no more. So they argue through the night. Black is black, no white is white. Just walk away, but knowing they are right. And nobody's fighting flowers, flowering. And nobody's fighting flowers, flowering. And nobody's fighting flowers.
That was beautiful.
Okay.
I love the flower lady.
Yeah, it's a
That was
great
awesome.
song.
Where were
Yeah.
you at playing that? Where was that recorded?
That was recorded at the All Souls Coffee House in Kansas City, Missouri.
That's what you had said. Okay, wow. I liked the vibe.
It's a great place. It's a great place to play. We've done 2 gigs there, and
The acoustics sound good.
it's fun. Yeah, and we also have a really good sound man there. His name's David Haken,
Ah.
and I mean is very particular about how the sound is. And when you've got acoustic instruments, you got to be very careful, in the balance. And he gets it every time.
Oh, that's great.
That was pretty much an
acoustic is hard to balance.
Recorded it. It was not recorded. The sound was not recorded off the board. It was recorded literally on a tablet, which tells you how well the sound
that's awesome.
balanced. So,
wow, the technology we have today.
Absolutely, I love it. It's makes performing much easier than it did way back when I was a youngster. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been very innovative.
Yes. Well,
so, Dr.
T, song.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I loved it.
I love that classic feel.
I love the melodies.
Mm-hmm.
I love the violin and the flute.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
The violin was very subtle. It was very nice. I loved it.
Yeah, Martha is an incredible musician. She's a great vocalist too. And now here comes the hint. If you've got Things Have Changed, you'll get to hear Martha singing. And like I said, when she does this song, we call her Granny Badass.
What's it called?
Granny Badass. Okay.
Things Have Changed.
Things Have Changed. Huh?
Yeah. It's a Bob Dylan song, and the All Souls version is great. Yeah, we get her to sing. She normally doesn't like to take leads. She has a lot of great backups, but taking the lead on this, she's great. She's fantastic. You'll love her.
So I have it queued up if you want to roll. If we want to roll it,
let's rock.
Let's get it done.
Yeah. Things Have Changed, written by Bob Dylan.
Okay. All right.
No one from me, nothing behind. I'm singing strange man's life, drinking champagne. He's got white skin and an assassin's eyes, and I'm looking straight up at the sapphire skies. I'm on West waiting on the last train. I feel like I'm standing on the gallows with my head in the Any moment now, all hell is gonna break loose. Well, people are crazy and time's astray. I'm locked up tight now, I'm all in a rage, and I used to care. But things have changed. Miles of bad road, and if the Bible is right, all the whole world's gonna explode. And I've been trying to get just as far away from myself as I can. Well, some things are just too hot to touch, and the human mind can only scan so much, and you just can't win the losing hand. A lot of water under the bridge and a lot of other stuff to do. I don't get upset. I'm just passing through. Well, people are so strange. I'm locked up tight and now I'm enraged, and I used to care. But things have I'm just pretty scared that didn't make no good. I'm all jacked up, I should be in Hollywood. And just for a second there, I thought I saw something new. But I take dancing lessons from the tear but around. There ain't no shortcut, I'm only a dress and drag. And only a fool here would think there's something to prove. Feel like falling up with the very person that I meet. Grab it by the hand and go running down the street. Time to stray. I'm locked up tight and I'm on the rage. I used to but things have changed. I just don't show it. You can hurt someone and not even know it within the next 60 seconds. Feels like an eternity. I can get low down, fly real high, and all the truth in the world, it just adds up to one big lie. I'm in love with a man who doesn't even feel me. Some people keep telling me, they say you ain't going nowhere. But you know, I really don't care. Well, people are crazy and times are strange. I'm locked up tight now, I'm on the rage. I used to care, but things I used to care, but things have changed.
Yeah, she's a badass.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing.
Yep, I love her.
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect song for, I used to care, but things have changed.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
What better
No,
way?
that totally fits. Like, I get it.
Yeah, we talked about doing that song, and we tried it with Mark, and when Martha took it, it was like, well, perfect fit. It's yours.
And that's her song.
Oh, yeah. It is a perfect fit.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
She sings that beautifully.
We have about 12 more minutes left of the show, and
Okay.
I always ask musicians what advice do you have for other musicians or for anyone that's starting out being a musician?
Be true to yourself no matter what, because ultimately it's a part of you that you're purveying to the rest of the world. You want it to represent you. And if you compromise that, it's not going to be satisfying. You've got to do what's inside of you, not what somebody else tells you to do or what you think people will like. You do it to your specifications. You do it because your life depends on it. And if you can't do it that way, then don't do it at all.
Well said, sir.
I feel like a lot of musicians say that,
Mm-hmm.
It's always like, do it from your heart. Like, it's a part of you. And I love that a lot of musicians always say that, because that's exactly how we feel. You know, our music is a part of us. It's part of our soul. It's like what our feelings sound like.
It's a language that is universal to everyone. We all can understand the feeling of music.
Yes.
I've known a lot of musicians over the years that have lost their way because they lost that focus. They got caught up with what the audience wants, or what their managers tell them the audience wants, or what a record company wants, tells them that the people want. And ultimately, you got to ask yourself, well, if you want me to be this, what drew you to what I was doing in the first place?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you see a musician lose their way because they're not doing what is inside of them, it's a sad thing to watch.
It is.
I think that's what's happened. That's what happened to Kurt Cobain. It's what happened to Brian Jones. It's what happened to Jimmy.
It happened to a lot of musicians.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They got caught up in that this is popular. This is what, if I do this just a little more commercially, then the rest of the world will love it. But ultimately, it's not you.
Ultimately, you sell your soul.
I was just Skull Pirate. Just gonna say that. Like,
we had a term for it back in the 70s and early 80s. We called them mershers.
Mershers
would go commercial. We would call them mershers.
I get that.
You would watch one person get up there with a guitar and play these amazing songs, and then somehow they would be transformed into, "Hi, how are you? We're going to try it this way."
They got sold out. They sold out.
And it just, I've seen too many musicians do that. And it just, their music becomes less interesting because there's less of themselves in it.
Yeah,
Agreed.
There's none of that soul left. There's none of that element left of them. Yeah.
So be true to yourself always. If you're going to pick up a guitar, you're going to sit behind a set of drums, or you're going to pluck at those keyboards, you do it with every ounce of your soul.
Yeah.
And don't let anybody tell you how you should do it, because it's there in you.
I agree.
Sorry.
Effing agree.
Mm-hmm.
Is there another video you want us to share before we, end for the night?
So Sad, No Love of Their Own is a great one.
Okay. So,
all right, we'll bring it up.
So Sad, No Love of His Own. And it's the one from 2019. It was recorded at Knuckleheads. We did a show for our community radio station. It was a benefit show at Knuckleheads in the day before Thanksgiving last year. And it was a tribute to George Harrison. And this is a George Harrison song that you don't hear every day. And I think it's one of his very finest. He actually wrote it after his wife, Patty, left him for Eric Clapton.
Oh.
And it's got one of the most beautiful but mournful melodies.
Was this called So Sad, No Luck of Your Own?
So Sad, No Love of His Own, yes.
No Love of His Own.
Yeah. George Harrison wrote this.
Well, that's a powerful meaning behind that song. Dang.
Yeah, listen carefully
Here
to
we
the
go.
words.
Okay.
George Harrison right here. Okay, so here we go.
And the cold wind now blows shows on a heart that is feeling sometimes. And he feels so alone with no mind on his own. So sad, so bad, so sad, so bad. All this man will be raised, how much pain and release on the ground to me. It is hard that I'm playing without its restraint to walk on such great dismay. And he feels so alone, alone on his own. So sad, so bad, so sad, so bad. Take the time of the day and give it away to someone who can play the part. Yes, he wants it carried on to his shell. It's too late, it's too late to make a restart. And he needs so alone, with no love of his own. So sad, so bad, so sad, so bad. So sad, so bad, so sad, so bad. Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Well, thank you very, very much on behalf of the band and myself. And thank you for inviting me to Musicians Hangout. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you
so
for
much
coming on
It's been a
and
true honor
sharing
to
your
have you.
music.
Yes. Please tell our viewers where they can find you and your band online.
Fashionably Late. We're on Facebook. We have our own page. Please visit us.
And give them a like, guys. Start following them because they're amazing.
I'm getting it.
Yes, so she's going to type it up and put it up on the screen. But yes, like I said before, Dr. T, it's been a true honor to finally have you on the show. You know, like we've been growing over the past year, and I've been wanting to have you as a guest for a while. So thank you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. I hope we get to do it again soon.
Oh, most
Awesome.
definitely.
Yeah, we'll have to have your
Hopefully
whole
we can-
band on.
Hopefully next time we'll have the stay-at-home orders done, and yes, we will be here to play live.
That'd be great.
We would love that.
Yes, we'll see you in
All
touch.
right,
Yes.
everyone. And stay tuned for next week as we have Atrocity Girl on.
Woohoo!
So, yes, definitely want to talk, check that out. Girl power.
Girl
Anyway,
power.
thank you all for joining us tonight. Maxine, you want to take us out?
Absolutely. Happy Wednesday, everyone. See you next week.
Happy Wednesday. See you next Wednesday.